Stephan Bonnar? Stephan Bonnar was a pioneer of modern mixed martial arts and a UFC Hall of Famer. Back in 2005, his bloody back-and-forth brawl with Forrest Griffin on live television pulled in millions of viewers. That single fight quite literally saved the UFC from bankruptcy. After a long career of taking heavy damage, he retired to a quieter life. Then, just days before Christmas in 2022, he suffered sudden heart complications at work. His heart just gave out. He was only 45 years old. The man who seemed invincible inside the steel cage was suddenly gone. It left behind a grieving family and a stunned fan base. Today, every time a fighter walks into a packed arena, they owe their success to the trail he blazed. Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. He was one of the most terrifying knockout artists in mixed martial arts history. For years, he put opponents to sleep with heavy hands, but a rare and brutal fight was taking place inside his own body. He developed hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, or HLH, a rare disorder where an overactive immune system destroys healthy organs. This was complicated by non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer of the lymphatic system. These relentless diseases rapidly broke down his once invincible physique. You could plainly see his drastic weight loss before multiple organ failure finally took his life in November 2022 at just 38 years old. His shocking death robbed the sports world of a quiet giant, but his terrifying punching power guarantees his legacy in the cage will never fade. Elias Theodorou. He was a Canadian mixed martial artist who fought in the UFC middleweight division. Behind the scenes, he was quietly fighting a different battle with stage 4 liver cancer. He decided to keep his diagnosis completely private from the public and even from many people in his inner circle. As a result, the combat sports world was shocked when he passed away on September 11, 2022, at just 34 years old. Nobody saw it coming because he continued to live his life without drawing attention to his declining health. Today, he is remembered not just as a fighter, but as a pioneer. He was the first professional athlete to secure a therapeutic use exemption for medical cannabis, paving the way for others to treat their pain legally. Kevin Randleman. He was a dominant force in early mixed martial arts and a former UFC heavyweight champion. In February 2016, his body fought a sudden, overwhelming battle. He was admitted to a hospital with a severe case of pneumonia. The infection put a massive strain on his system. As his lungs struggled to process oxygen, the stress transferred directly to his heart. At just 44 years old, he suffered fatal heart failure. The sports world was shocked by the sudden loss of an athlete known for his incredible physical power and explosive wrestling style. Today, he is remembered as a true pioneer of the sport, holding a permanent place in the UFC Hall of Fame. Evan Tanner. Evan Tanner was a pioneer in mixed martial arts who won the UFC middleweight championship in 2005. In September 2008, he traveled to the Palo Verde Mountains in the California desert for a solo camping trip. Things went terribly wrong when his motorcycle ran out of gas. Stranded in an isolated area, Tanner tried to walk to a nearby spring to find water. He was walking under a blazing sun with temperatures soaring well past 110 degrees. The extreme heat quickly overwhelmed his system. His body just could not cool down, and he succumbed to severe heat exhaustion. Search teams eventually found him miles from his camp. His tragic death remains a stark warning that even elite professional fighters cannot overpower the brutal forces of nature. Ryan Gimo. He was a light heavyweight fighter best known for a 7-second knockout in the cage. In June 2016, his life ended in a senseless act of violence in an Edmonton parking lot. Jimmo was driving with his girlfriend when a truck began tailgating them. They pulled into a parking lot and Jimmo stepped out of his vehicle. He walked over to the truck to speak with the driver. After a brief verbal exchange, Jimmo turned to walk back to his own car. Suddenly, the driver accelerated, striking Jimmo from behind and speeding away. Jimmo died from severe blunt force trauma shortly after. Today, his death stands as a heavy reminder of how quickly a minor road rage dispute can permanently destroy lives. Josh Saman. He was a talented UFC middleweight fighter and a gifted writer. In September 2016, police responded to a call at a South Florida apartment. They found someone unresponsive and his friend, Troy Kirkingberg, already dead. Saman had spent much of his life openly battling personal demons, addiction, and the tragic loss of his girlfriend years prior. The physical toll of that night was severe. Saman slipped into a coma and spent several days in the hospital on life support. A few days later, he passed away from a probable drug overdose at just 28 years old. His loss cut short a promising career, and his story remains a heartbreaking reminder of the silent battles athletes face outside the cage. Shane Del Rosario. He was an undefeated Strikeforce veteran and a promising UFC heavyweight. He built an impressive 11-fight win streak before entering the octagon, finishing opponents with heavy strikes. But his run ended in a way nobody expected. In late 2013, at just 30 years old, Shane suffered a massive heart attack at home. The cause was a rare congenital cardiovascular condition that completely stopped his heart's normal rhythm. His roommate found him collapsed and called for help. Doctors put him on life support, but the damage was already done, and he passed away 2 weeks later. His shocking death still matters today because it proves that hidden genetic heart defects can silently exist inside the bodies of even the most elite professional athletes. Justin Eilers. He was a professional mixed martial artist who once fought for the UFC heavyweight championship. On Christmas Day in 2008, a family gathering turned into a tragedy. Eilers was visiting his mother and stepfather, James Malik, at their house in Nampa, Idaho. A loud argument broke out over cleaning up the holiday dishes. The yelling quickly escalated. Malik pulled out a handgun and fired, shooting the 30-year-old fighter in the chest. Paramedics arrived to find Eilers dead at the scene. Malik was arrested and later convicted of manslaughter. The fighter's sudden death remains a sobering reminder of how fast routine household arguments can unexpectedly escalate into fatal violence. Corey Hill. He was a 6'4", lightweight mixed martial artist best known for his time on Season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter. In 2015, his life was cut short by a bizarre and devastating medical crisis. He contracted a severe form of fungal pneumonia. This kind of infection attacks the respiratory system aggressively. As the fungus spread through his airways, it severely restricted his oxygen supply. This caused one of his lungs to collapse, which then triggered a fatal heart attack. Despite being a highly conditioned 36-year-old athlete, his body simply could not beat the aggressive infection, and he died in May of that year. His sudden passing stands as a tragic reminder that even the toughest fighters remain vulnerable to invisible diseases. Kimbo Slice. Kevin Ferguson was the internet's first true backyard street fighting legend who eventually brawled in the UFC and Bellator. In June 2016, he was training for an upcoming summer bout against James Thompson. Out of nowhere, the 42-year-old was rushed to a hospital in Florida. He had severe abdominal pain and shortness of breath. Doctors quickly found a mass on his liver and diagnosed him with congestive heart failure. His body crashed fast. He was placed on a ventilator and told he needed an emergency heart transplant. Sadly, his heart stopped working completely before doctors could save him. Today, he is remembered as the original blueprint for viral internet stars crossing over into legitimate professional combat sports. Paul Verhoeven's. Paul Verhoeven was one of the original giants of early mixed martial arts. Known as the polar bear, the 6'8" pioneer stepped into the cage back in the wild days of the mid-90s. In December 2020, Verhoeven contracted severe COVID-19. His health dropped fast, and doctors placed him in a medically induced coma on a ventilator to give his body a fighting chance. For weeks, he fought the virus in intensive care, but his lungs simply could not recover. The prolonged battle proved too much, and he passed away on January 16, 2021, at 51 years old. His death marked a sad end for a massive fighter who helped build the early UFC, reminding fans of our shared vulnerability. Michael Falcao. He was a professional mixed martial artist from Brazil who once competed as a middleweight in the UFC. His life ended violently in February 2022 in his hometown of Pelotas. Late at night, Falcao was outside a local bar when a physical altercation broke out. During the chaos, he was stabbed multiple times in the stomach. Emergency responders found him bleeding heavily on the pavement. They rushed him to a nearby hospital, but the severe blood loss and organ damage were too much, and he was pronounced dead shortly after. His sudden death stands as a grim reminder of how quickly unpredictable street violence can overpower even a highly trained professional athlete. Tim Hague. He was a Canadian mixed martial artist who competed as a heavyweight in the UFC. In June 2017, he stepped into a boxing ring in Edmonton to fight Adam Braidwood. Haig took a terrible beating during the bout. He was knocked down multiple times before a final punch put him flat on the canvas in the second round. He actually walked out of the ring under his own power, but things quickly went wrong. Beneath the surface, his brain was bleeding. He slipped into a coma and passed away 2 days later from a severe brain hemorrhage at 34 years old. His death shook the combat sports world, forcing athletic commissions to look much closer at fighter safety and the serious risks of repeated brain trauma. Art Jimerson. He was a professional boxer who became an unforgettable part of mixed martial arts history. In May 2024, Jimerson passed away at the age of 60. Back in 1993, he stepped into the cage at the very first Ultimate Fighting Championship to face Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialist Royce Gracie. Unsure of what to expect in a no-rules tournament, Jimerson walked out wearing a single boxing glove on his left hand. The idea was to protect his jabbing hand while keeping his right hand free to grab. Gracie quickly took him down and submitted him, making that lone red glove an enduring symbol of the sport's wild, experimental early days. Even though he lost, his bravery secured his legacy as a true pioneer.